I've been amassing machines at a much faster rate than I have been looking at them, and these are two such machines. I'm going to rectify that situation now, so let's have a look at them. These are both DOS machines. Ignore the word Epson. They are made by a famous British manufacturer, and they are, I was almost going to call them laptops, but they're not laptops. Maybe their descendants would become laptops, but these are at best luggable. So what have we got? Well, in here is an Amstrad ALT-386SX. It's a ALT-386SX based computer. We've looked at a 286 version of this before and we didn't get very far with it. This in here is a PPC 640. This is a I think it's a V30 based machine, black and white. I believe they're both black and white, but we shall see. I don't know the status of any of these, so we are going to essentially triage them to start with and see what we've got. So let's start with the 386SX. I've taken it out of the bag and we've got a very tatty box containing a Mitsumi mouse, proper bollock mouse. Actually looks to be quite clean. 9-pin interface, mains cable, a Mitsumi mouse driver disc. Right, brochure for the ALT-286 and ALT-386SX. That tells you all about that. You can pause the video and read it. I'm not going to read it out. And on the back. So we've got a description of the ports. Generous of 1 megabyte of RAM is supplied as standard. Comes with a 40 megabyte drive. So 386SX 16 megahertz switchable down to 8. Weight states 1 megs, 2 megs and 4 megs upgrades. 1 expansion half-length card. Power save, 40 megabyte hard drive, 3.5 inch 1.44. External floppies, VGA, graphics, parallel port, serial port, keyboard, coprocessor socket, VGA monitor port, power supply, built-in charger, etc. So that's nice to have, that brochure. What we've got, password equals halt. Maybe we will need that. So, without seeing that. Okay, so this is the receipt for it, and we can see what it cost in 1991. Right, so Amstrad ALT-386SX, including special offer inkjet printer, sheet feeder, NiCad battery pack, inkjet cartridge, box of diskettes, 1627, 43, 32, 13, 1190 plus VAT. So this was basically 1630 quid plus VAT in 91. I don't remember what the VAT rate was in 91. 15% maybe. So let's take a quick look at the ports. Floppy drive, the floppy connector is covered, which is a good sign. Taking it off, it does not look rusty. That is a good sign. Looking at the back, you remember what the ports will look like on the previous machine that we had. This is all very rusty. This is very, very clean. Dip switches have been set. Monitor output and dip switches look very clean. Let's open the front. That looks very clean. Word perfect for DOS. Doesn't have a sticky feel or anything to it, so that is good. Shall we try it out and see if it actually works? We might let out the magic smoke, but you never know. So, I mean, it's 10:30 at night. If it does let out the magic smoke, I'm going to be living with it all night. But for the purposes of, I don't remember seeing reefers in the previous one, but for the purposes of scientific inquiry and YouTube hits, or YouTube views, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on at the back because it is off at the plug, so that I can then switch it on at the plug for ease. Here we go. Maybe just nothing. Oh no. Well, the power light has come on in and the HD light did flash. But it's not doing anything else. Okay, that's something. We know that the power supply at least works. Okay, so where we are with this one, power comes on, the fan comes on, but it does nothing. Black screen. No smell, no smoke. That's a good sign. Okay, turning it over, that's going to be the RAM board. This is going to be the battery. A little bit of, I'm not sure if that's wear or corrosion. So to get the battery out, we need to flip that down and then push this so that the arrows line up, and then we can lift it out. Looks like a little bit of corrosion on the terminals there. Let's put that down. And it looks like there's some corrosion on the terminals there. Let me zoom in. So there and there. I'm going to keep this battery off because, well, it's a NiCad. You don't want it to further leak. That may be not very much, but it might be a symptom of something deeper inside. Well used laptop. I call it a laptop. It is bloody heavy. Gives you a good workout. I love a good PCB. We've seen PCBs quite often on my channel. So things like this, and of course we built this one. It only cost as little as $5 to get 10 boards like this. All it takes is to get the Gerber files. If you're building a PCB from a GitHub project, then you just download the Gerber files from the GitHub, upload them to PCBWay, select the color that you want and any other options like the board thickness and so on, and off you go. You can also get shared projects which other people have designed and uploaded for everyone to enjoy. They also do other things like CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal work. They do PCB assembly. Whatever your project is, if it needs a PCB or something related to a PCB, you don't have to put components on a PCB. You can use it to build a case with. So whatever your PCB needs, check them out. www.pcbway.com. Thanks. So this is the Amstrad PPC 640. It did not come with anything apart from what is here. So there's no power supply. There's no power supply built in. It doesn't have a mains socket. It doesn't have very much of anything on the outside. It's got 2 floppy drives, 3.5 inch. BT approval number. So I guess this looks like a flap, so we can pull that out, and we have video. Looks like CGA or possibly monochrome. Parallel serial something, expansion AB, phone socket. I guess that's for a Amstrad monitor. Don't have one of those. DC in. I read on the bottom DC input voltage is 12 volts. And that opens out. So that's the keyboard. It feels okay, nothing special. It's a bit spongy. And that's the screen. It's a shame that LCD panel appears to be damaged. Oh, it's got a ratchet, so it can ratchet up. Contrast volume. No brightness as such. I think Noel's Retro Lab did a mod to put a modern VGA screen in. Considering that, we might want to do the same thing, if we get it to work. On the back, this must be the battery panel. What have we got in here? Good grief. That takes what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I would guess those are D cells. Use only alkaline size C batteries. 10 size C batteries. I wonder how long that gave the computer in terms of minutes, I would guess. So let's see what that takes in terms of the power supply, and then see what we can do and give it a try. I have got a DC adapter with the correct plug on the end. It says it is 12 volts 2 amps center positive, and that is exactly what we need to go into this. So let us try it. I have no idea what this is going to do. Will it boot? Will it not boot? Let's find out. Okay, the plug is on. Here we go. We should expect, if it's going to start, we should expect 3 beeps. Lights. Please wait, it says. Oh, excellent. I don't know if you can read that. There we go. It's very hard to read. Let's see if we can adjust the contrast. There we go. It says Amstrad Portable PC 640K V1.9, copyright Amstrad PLC. Please set date and time. Please fit new batteries. Insert a system disk into drive A, then press any key. I don't have a system disk. This is unfortunate. There are 2 floppy drives. I don't know which one is A and which one is B. I'm going to guess that this one is drive A. This one is drive B. They are probably going to be 720K floppies, because this is fundamentally an 8-bit machine. Colour me impressed. We will take this apart and have a look inside, because I am curious. And as I said before, there is a mod that we can do. Crunch. What's in here? This is a flap. Oh, okay, it's the modem cable. That's interesting, because there's a modem socket on the back. So I wonder why there's a separate cable there as well. Not that it's any use these days, but it's interesting to know it's there. Okay, I'll put that back later. Okay, colour me gobsmacked. So let's have a look inside this, shall we? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. I think there are screws in here. Yeah, 5, 6. Are we going to retrobrite that? What do you think? Tell me in the comments below. So these are regular Phillips posi drive screws. Right, 6 screws. They are all the same. Okay, here we go. Right, so that's the speaker and battery cable. Right, yellow is that way. There we go. So we can put that to one side. Now this is the modem, and this is the main circuit board. Just turn it around. So in those days, British Telecom, in their wisdom, decided that everything had to be in a sealed box that was connected to the telephone line. So hence, modems of the day, and I believe this is 2400, had a sealed box on them. And you can see this has got the old style BT plug. Well, I think it still is BT plug, but it's been a while since I've had a telephone with a landline kind. So that's the modem. This is the main motherboard, which is actually in two parts. It's sandwiched together because of, well, space. So, I mean, you can imagine it's the size of a normal motherboard, which, you know, big and square. Let's just take it apart and have a quick look. So I'm not going to do anything drastic with it. I think in order to take this apart, we need to take this off. So there's one screw there. No, there's another screw there. I'm making this up as I go along, you can tell, can't you? Right, okay, so that's just going to... And that's the modem card. So we've got shiny coppery metal, been varnished or whatever they put on there to sort of protect it. I have no idea what these chips are, but that's the modem box. This could be space to put expansion cards, because this is pretty much useless. 2400 baud modem, unless you've got a telephone line simulator. I say that, it may well still connect to a phone line. So, okay, let's go back to this. Right. We've got these push-through standoffs. There we go. So again, it's painted all over with this varnish stuff. That is a Sony badged V30 clone. I believe they were authorised manufacturers of said V30. Some chunky big caps. They do look alright. That doesn't going to need recapping by the looks of it. So that, I think, is ROM. That's obviously the CPU, that's the V30, that's the space for a 287 coprocessor. 6845, that's the CRT controller. And then this board is going to be the RAM. And again, we've got two screws. My experience of these kind of standoffs is they get very, very brittle. But under here we've got ribbon cable for the floppy drives and 640k of RAM, some more ROMs, some cappies, power circuitry. There we are. Assuming that it's actually going to boot, we're not going to need to do anything with this. This is 41256 RAM, so that's 256k by 1. And there's going to be a bank of 8 of those, and another bank of 8 of those, giving us 512k. And then in the middle here, we've got a bank of 4164s. Anyone with a C64 will be familiar with those. 64k by 1, and that is going to give us 128k, which takes us up to 640. And then up here, these are 41256s and 4164s, and that gives us our parity bit. So this is all parity RAM, effectively 9 bits wide. Main memory parity. Cookie. So that's a look inside the Amstrad PPC 640. Let's hope we don't need to come back. I'm going to leave the modem in here for the time being because you never know, might find something else with a modem that we can talk to. I don't have a landline, so I'm not likely to get a landline, but you never know, one day somebody might. There we go. It's all back together. We've previously looked at an ALT-286, and my understanding is that the 386 is pretty much the same, other than the fact that it's got a 386 in it, and we can expect pretty much the same grot inside. Corrosion, battery leakage, and so on. Now, I've already taken the battery out. It's here. Suggestions of what to do with that in the comments below. Do not dispose of old batteries in the fire. It is heavy. That's one thing that we noticed before, that it is heavy. Let's take this flap off first. This is the RAM expansion card cage thing. You probably don't actually need to take it off to disassemble the machine, but it will be interesting just to see what's inside. Right, so coated inside there. Chippy chip there that is missing. Is that a 387? Maybe, I don't know. Phoenix BIOS, and that I guess is a custom thing. 4 RAM chips. There is a custom VGA card inside here, and there should be a slot as well. So again, the metallized cover, 16-bit ISA slot. We can't see the card underneath, and there are no screws that we need to undo, so that's fine. We're not going to be actually fixing this today. This is really a matter of triage, just to see how bad it is, what we need to do, and so on. Okay, so that's the VGA card, that's the power supply, floppy drive, and the main board is underneath. And the battery is down in this corner. This is what we want to get at. So I think to get at the battery, we need to take the floppy drive out. So come what may, we're going to take the battery off the motherboard. Superficially, at least, this does look to be in much better condition. I say that we've got a clear case of corrosion here. We can definitely see green in that connector. So let's lift this tray out. and see what the damage is. Well, there's definitely corrosion there. There's definitely corrosion under there. Oh. Let's cut this out before it does anything else. It just came off. So yeah, it doesn't seem as bad as the 286. The 286 had a lot of damage going all the way down the board. This seems to be localized here. It's obviously got into this floppy connector. So we're going to have to take the board out and have a look at the bottom. But to start with, we can just put some vinegar on here and neutralize the acid, or the alkali rather, and basically stabilize it so that we can then work on it later. I'm afraid we're going to end up disassembling this completely and taking this board out, because the best way to clean that is going to be to remove it. And that comes away. What is that white stuff? That looks like mold. Oh yeah, and you can see it all over this connector. So that's got to be some other sort of, I don't know what, acid, alkali, something is eating at it. It's all over that connector. Is that capacitor juice or something else? So now, with any luck, this will lift out. And we should see the horrors of what lies beneath. So this is going to be the worst area because this is under the battery. So it's come through, I guess, maybe the vias, but certainly all around those surface mount components we can see corrosion. And green stuff on that side doesn't look so bad. It's mainly U144 and a little bit of U127. And those traces over there, fortunately most of that is blank. And this connector, we might have to take that connector off. God help us with this connector, it's 4 rows. So what I'm going to do now is soak this in some vinegar and then soak it in some IPA, because the vinegar will eat away the circuit board just as well as the battery stuff. The only difference is vinegar is acid and battery stuff is alkali. So I've got a meat container, bottle of vinegar, and this is our board. Now just having a brief look at this, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but that trace there definitely has lifted. So whatever that was doing, it's not doing it now. What I'm going to do is simply pour vinegar over the circuit board. You can see it fizzing. And that should neutralize it. It should neutralize it pretty quickly, actually. But you can see it fizzing. So I'm going to leave it on there for a while. I wonder if we need to use vinegar on that white stuff. So I'm just going to let that soak, or at least absorb itself for a few minutes. It's had 15 minutes or so. Let's take a look. It's definitely stopped fizzing, and it seems like a lot of the board is much clearer. Green stuff is coming off. Okay, let's do the back side. So again, down this area there's some corrosion at that end, but this is the main part. Now the stuff that's around this VGA connector on here and on the board around the edges, and also on the back there, and on there, although it doesn't seem to have got to the ISO slot. But that kind of looks furry, like almost, I have no idea what that is. I don't even know how to treat it. Do you treat it with vinegar? Anyhow, we'll let that soak for a bit, and then we will rinse it off with IPA. Okay, that's had a while. I'm getting rather low on IPA, so I think I shall have to get some more. Don't be too liberal with this. But we need to make sure we get everywhere that we want with the vinegar. So I'm going to let that dry off, and then I think I might try some IPA on this white stuff. I've cleaned this up as best as I can, so let's go through these boards in order. Let's start with the VGA board. The mould or whatever it is scrubbed off pretty well. I took the EEPROM out while I was cleaning it, just so that there was no liquid that got inside that connector and stuff. But that's come up quite nicely. The riser board, that has got a little bit of corrosion in the bottom of this. I've tried the hardest I can with a toothbrush to get in there, but it hasn't got right down to the bottom, so that's of concern. And of course that goes into this, but that doesn't seem to have much, if any, in the way of corrosion on it. The 16-bit ISO slot seems to be okay, and that seems to be okay. That had mould in it, and I've got rid of that. The memory board sitting on here, there was some corrosion got into this connector, so I've had to clean this as well and vinegar it. This connector is a really weird 4-row thing, very high density. There's some corrosion got in there. It doesn't seem to be serious, but it's dulled the solder. Ideally that would be replaced, but I don't know how to get hold of one of those, or even what it is. If you know what that is, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll be able to find one and get it out and replace it. But I've cleaned that, certainly I've cleaned that the best as I can. and onto the main board. This area had the white fluffy mold stuff, and there is a little bit of corrosion right down the bottom. I've neutralized that again the best as I can. IPA, vinegar, all that stuff. And same here, round here, this is the bad stuff on the board. That connector I've cleaned. This connector I've cleaned the best as I can. There is corrosion down the bottom of it. That was close to the battery area. I'm suspicious that there might be some corrosion underneath it. So probably going to have to take that connector out and put a new one in. These traces I've cleaned up the best as I can. It looks like maybe it's got into the vias. Certainly it's got under the solder mask. And I think that track, at least that big right angle track, I believe has lifted and stuff has got under there. I've cleaned the legs on this chip and this chip. That might need to be replaced. It's an HCT02 and that is a 4069. You can probably get hold of those and replace those if we need to. I don't think anything else around here actually needs to be worried about too much. These traces obviously will need to be taken back. The solder mask will need to be taken back with a brush, and the traces underneath tested and repaired if necessary. But I'm not going to do that in this video. That is for another time. For now, I'm going to put this back together because really we were just after triaging it, seeing what needed to be done. I'm not going to leave it a long time before getting back to this. And I don't know, even though it's a small area, I don't know how repairable that's going to be, particularly with the vias. I don't know how many layers this board has got, whether these are connections into middle layers. So yeah, that could be a problem. But we'll see. I would like to get this working if I can. I really would. I don't want to be 0 for 2 on these things. Anyhow, I'm going to put it back together now. So see you on the flip side. Oh, one other thing. The floppy connector, which plugs into here. Now, we've seen corrosion, battery corrosion definitely got into there. It also got into the cable. And we can see there's corrosion definitely inside the connector. And in fact inside the cable. So I'm going to replace that cable. They're quite simple and easy to do, so we can just make one up. That's not going to be a problem. That length, what, 34 pin. Now, while doing all this other stuff, I had one of these on order and it has arrived. This is a Amstrad, turn it the other way up. This is an Amstrad PPC 640 DOS disk. Shall we try it out? See if we can actually get this thing to boot. So there we go. Switch the power on. I hope the screen is going to be legible because that is, has to be the beep beep beep. Has to be the worst screen I think I have ever seen. And there's a contrast control, but it doesn't really do very much. At least not in terms of visibility. I wonder if I lay that down flat, whether we can actually see it from the top. That might be workable. So insert system disk into drive A. And press any key. Helps if I actually read it or manage to read it. Hey, it's booting. Date and time. Let's not worry. Right. DOS 3.3 with scroll lock on. Yeah, it's like all sorts of sluggy mush, doesn't it? But that is a directory listing. Let's do a wide one. I don't know if you saw that, but this splurge down the bottom here, that's definitely stopping it from being seen. So I've got a spare floppy. This is one of the test discs that we used on the 1581 a while back. Let's put that into drive B and let's try and format it. Format B colon. Strike enter when ready. That's ticking away. The drive B light is on. These are 720k format discs, so 80 tracks. Format complete. 730112 bytes free and available. Format another. No, I don't think we will. So, and of course there's nothing on it, but it has read it and it has written it. Awesome. So now I copied some stuff onto another disk. Let's take a look. This was done on a USB drive on my laptop. So there's a README. Yeah, okay. So we know the scroll lock light works, we know the num lock light works, we know the caps lock light works. The keyboard seems to be okay, which is good. Dig dug. See what we've got. This is set up as a CGA screen, so even though it's monochrome, yeah. We're going to have to do something about that. Ah! Okay. So what's next? Well, this machine appears to work. The LCD is the most awful thing that I think I have ever seen. And in any case, there's this area in the bottom here that doesn't display anything. So there's one thing that I've got in mind for this, and that is to replace this black and white LCD panel that has got this horrible sort of burn, smudge, delaminated, whatever this is going on in this corner. Take that out and replace it with a color LCD panel and drive that with a little RGB to HDMI board on it, and we can possibly fit that into the battery compartment. I did think about putting it in here because that modem is pretty much useless, but I might leave that as it is for now. We could take that modem card out if we want to, really. There is zero chance of it ever going into a telephone line. There is zero chance of me ever having a telephone line again. The other thing that we can do is there are two expansion ports on the back. They are there. They basically form an interface for an ISA card. So I have got on order from PCBWay some PCBs to build an ISA card, and we're also going to build a compact flash card interface to go on that, and I don't know, maybe some other expansion cards that we can put on there. So that's something that we can do. We could, in theory, replace one of the floppy drives in here with a Gotek. That's an option. Not in the immediate future, but sometime down the road, I think. So this is a goer, and we have got some definite expansion potential with it. This machine, we have triaged it, we have taken the main board and cleaned it up and neutralized the battery base. It's not acid, it's base, that was on it, and hopefully that is not going to deteriorate any further. At some point in the not too distant future, we're going to take this apart again, and we're going to see if we can fix it and make it work, because having this work will be really nice. It's got it's a monochrome screen, but it's got a nice, I think it's VGA panel, and there's a hard drive inside it, and I think it would be nice to have that, and it's 386. So that is a project for the future. The downside to that is I've been looking on YouTube and the internet in general, and there have been a load of people that have started to restore these and started to repair the main boards, and the number that have finished and got it working is 0. So yeah, there is that, but we're going to give it a go. That is for another video. If you've got this far, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment in the box down below. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and check out my Patreon if that's something that you would like to do. Support the channel in that way. My current patrons are scrolling up the screen, and I will see you next time. See ya. Bye. So what's next? Well,